Chapter 986. Waiting for a chance. The old man was thin and shriveled. His head was slightly big, and he had several locks of hair trailing down from it. There was red in his eyes, and there was also a fierce glare shining in them. Once he appeared, he sprawled down on the ground and did not move. Only after a moment did he get up and look around himself carefully. He stared at the blade of grass with 3 leaves on the 1,000 feet tall tree, and a brilliant glint shone in his eyes. He moved, and in an instant, he appeared nearby. He lifted his right hand, then swiftly seized the ground. Immediately, his fingers sank into the earth. When he closed his eyes, Su Ming felt a light shudder traveling through the ground. Su Ming's eyes sparkled. The supreme body he controlled at that moment had blended with the area around him. He was confident that he would not be found so easily. After all, this treasure was created by a sublime paragon. It was not something that could be seen through by a normal master of fate, lives, and death. After a moment, when the tremors in the ground became weaker then completely subsided, Flame Fiend's progenitor lifted his fingers from the ground. After licking his lips, he moved and instantly appeared beside the 1,000 feet tall tree. He shifted his gaze from the blade of grass with 3 leaves above the tree's crown to the 4 people sitting and meditating below. The spot in which Su Ming hid allowed him to see Flame Fiend's progenitor. He noticed that when the old man swept his gaze past the 4 people, he placed his attention on Long Hai. The old man licked his lips, and a hint of greed appeared in his eyes. What a great body that has been nourished for 10,000 years by the spirit of the tree. The value of this body is even greater than the flower above it. Flame Fiend's progenitor mumbled to himself softly. Especially since their souls and their cultivation bases are still around. The eyes of Flame Fiend's progenitor grew brighter. He closed in on the cultivators, but the moment he approached them, the 1,000 feet tall tree suddenly swayed. The world immediately roared. The sky turned from light green to dark green. The change was especially prominent on the ground, which filled with endless blades of grass. At the instant they sprung up, they charged towards Flame Fiend's progenitor, as if they wanted to surround him and wrap him up like strands of hair. Flame Fiend's progenitor grinned. The moment he was surrounded by those blades of grass, he stretched his arms out, and immediately, a purple sea of fire erupted from his thin and shriveled body. The sea of fire instantly spread out, and once it crashed into the incoming blades of grass, violent booms rang out. It stirred up a wave of impact that swept outwards. Su Ming remained still not too far away, watching the actions of Flame Fiend's progenitor. He saw the old man rush to one of the cultivators in Solar Kalpa Realm right when the purple flames from his body crashed into the grass. The Solar Kalpa Realm cultivator had his shoulder seized by Flame Fiend's progenitor, and in a flash, Flame Fiend's progenitor bit into his neck. With one vicious suck, the cultivator's body started trembling violently, a telling sign that he was in intense pain, but his expression remained numb, and his eyes were still dazed. His body started withering away right before their eyes. After a moment, he was reduced to only skin and bones. A large amount of black spots also appeared on his body. These black spots spread out rapidly, and judging by the looks of it, he was not rotting away. Instead, it seemed like a brand left on him after fire had eroded his body. All of this happened in the span of a few breaths. When Flame Fiend's progenitor lifted his head from the Solar Kalpa Realm cultivator's neck, blood still trickled down the corners of his lips, and there was excitement as well as an expression of being revitalized on his face. As for that cultivator in Solar Kalpa Realm, his entire body was covered in black spots. It had turned black like charcoal. When Flame Fiend's progenitor swung his right hand, the cultivator turned into powder. At that moment, the 1,000 feet tall tree seemed to have become angry. It swayed again, and quite a large number of tree leaves fell off to turn into talismans. They shone with a dense, green light and charged towards Flame Fiend's progenitor. The eyes of the old man sparkled. He rushed to another cultivator in Solar Kalpa Realm, and almost at the same time he closed in on him, the talismans reached him. Flame Fiend's progenitor lifted his right hand and pushed his palm straight at them. Loud bangs shot up in the world. A gigantic palm appeared in front of Flame Fiend's progenitor. It charged towards those talismans, and at the instant they crashed into each other, booming sounds reverberated in the air. Flame Fiend's progenitor used that time to reach another Solar Kalpa Realm cultivator. This time, he did not bite down on his neck. Instead, at the instant he closed in, he seized the cultivator's chest with his left hand, and what Su Ming saw caused his pupils to shrink. He saw with his own eyes that the chest of Flame Fiend's progenitor tore itself open. It was like a gaping mouth that was filled with flames. With this appearance, he pounced on that cultivator in Solar Kalpa realm. From the distance, it was as if he was using that mouth on his chest to devour that cultivator. With just one bite, the head was devoured, and with another bite, the whole body disappeared from the spot. The cultivator was completely eaten by Flame Fiend's progenitor. It was difficult to imagine the thin and shriveled Flame Fiend's progenitor to be able to swallow a cultivator whose body was much bigger than his, but it was what had happened. As Su Ming's eyes sparkled, he watched Flame Fiend's progenitor fighting against the tree. After a moment of hesitation, he decided to give up on attacking. If this tree was only this powerful, it had been impossible for it to trap an almighty like progenitor Long Hai. Judging by the looks of it, the tree has yet to execute its full strength. Then the reason why it did this. Su Ming's eyes focused and he cast Flame Fiend's progenitor a glance. Clearly, if he could think about this, it was impossible that the old man did not guess it as well. That's why he chose those 3 cultivators in Solar Kalpa realm. The 1,000 feet tall tree swayed furiously. A large amount of leaves fell off, and as they floated down, they turned into talismans to charge towards Flame Fiend's progenitor, who laughed loudly and moved. He did not bother himself with the arrival of those talismans and pounced on the last remaining cultivator in Solar Kalpa realm. The talismans were so quick that they touched the old man's body the moment he pounced on the last Solar Kalpa realm cultivator. As booming sounds rose in the air again, the last of the trio died in Flame Fiend's progenitor's mouth. As for the old man, he swayed and was forced back a few steps, but a cold glare appeared in his eyes. At that moment, a pair of eyes suddenly appeared on the tree's trunk. Those eyes were yellow. They shone with a merciless light and were staring at the Flame Fiend coldly. "Are you done eating them?" A loud, buzzing sound came from the tree and echoed in the world, turning into booms which sounded like thunder. They swept through the land in all directions. "I'd have to thank you for intentionally letting me devour those 3 cultivators. Now, I just lack one more," Flame Fiend's progenitor said in a ghastly manner while laughing and licking his lips. His body shook with his mirth, and it filled him with a bizarre air. When Su Ming heard this, he did not move. In fact, even his eyes remained still. Everything was just as he had guessed previously. The tree was the only ferocious spirit in this land. Everything just then might have made the situation seem intense, but in truth, it was just for show. The tree had intentionally let Flame Fiend's progenitor devour the 3 cultivators. With it, it could make the blood and essence of Flame Fiend's progenitor become even more robust, and it could turn him into a puppet like Long Hai. "I lack a member of an alien race like you under me. Stay." As the tree spoke with a buzzing sound, progenitor Long Hai's eyes opened. A sharp and fierce glare appeared in his eyes, and at the same time, he stood up slowly. His body started floating, and he could be seen clearly that branches which had crawled out from the ground had fused into Long Hai's feet, making him look like a puppet which was held up by strings. The moment the tree finished speaking, Long Hai's eyes shone. He lifted his right hand, and the shadow of a green dragon appeared on his palm. That green dragon threw its head back and roared, then rushed towards Flame Fiend's progenitor. At the same time, Long Hai flew forward as well. The 1,000 feet tall tree swayed, and cracking sounds rang out. 1,000 leaves fell off and turned into 1,000 talismans. Then, another 1,000 leaves went down. When they did, they began burning on their own. As they did so, there was no smoke, but a thick wave of resentment rose up when it spread out. Another 1,000 leaves drifted down. They turned into human faces that belonged to all sorts of living beings. Piercing roars reverberated in the air, and the 3,000 leaves rushed towards Flame Fiend's progenitor. "I am the ancestor of all trees. I have existed since the world was created. These 3,000 leaves and the 3,000 great Taos in the world. How dare you still not submit to me?" That buzzing sound was like thunder. The 3,000 leaves turned into a gigantic battle axe in midair and swung down at Flame Fiend's progenitor. When he saw this, a hint of surprise appeared on his face. He sensed the mighty pressure of those in Mastery Realm from the tree, but if it could trap an almighty in Mastery Realm, so it was clearly impossible for it to be weak. When Flame Fiend's progenitor saw the attacks, his pupils contracted, but not a single hint of fear could be detected on him. Instead, he grinned. Without even looking at the incoming Long Hai and the axe formed by the 3,000 tree leaves, he pushed his hands against the ground. After that, he lifted his head and let out a shrill roar towards the sky. A purple sea of fire that surged into the sky instantly erupted from the Flame Fiend's body and rushed down into the ground through his arms. So what if you can trap an almighty in Mastery Realm? If you were a person, I might be wary of you, but you are a tree, and trees are dependent on the ground. I will burn the ground which serves as your foundation and turn this world into nothingness. I'd like to see how exactly you will make things hard for me when your foundation is gone. As the Flame Fiend shouted, the ground burned, and a dense sea of fire filled the entire world. While the ground burned, it started disappearing swiftly. The layers in the sky turned into nothingness. Flame Fiend's progenitor's flames were his origin flames. He was a life form different from dust burners, but like them he had emerged from flames as well. In the blink of an eye, the earth turned into ashes and disappeared. The sky was devoured by emptiness. Within an instant, there was no longer a sky or earth in the world, only a tree that was 1,000 feet tall floating around. The tree had countless roots. Due to the lack of soil, they all started twisting. Chapter 987. Now progenitor Long Hai's green dragon rushed out from the flames and closed in on the Flame Fiend's progenitor in the blink of an eye. As the old man laughed ferociously, he lifted his right hand and struck the center of his brows. When he opened his mouth, he coughed up a mouthful of fresh black blood. It seemed to contain the power of searing heat as well as some sort of strange life. It charged towards the green dragon, and the instant they collided, no bangs shot up. Instead, the black blood seemed to have fused into the green dragon's body. Countless lumps appeared on its skin. Those lumps burst and turned into human faces with black patches. Those faces matched one of the 3 cultivators in Solar Kalpa Realm whom Flame Fiend's progenitor devoured just then. They spread out and filled the entire body of the green dragon, reducing it to ashes. You're just a tree that no longer has a foundation. How dare you fight against me? As the Flame Fiend laughed ferociously, he looked as if he was about to rush over, but right in front of him, the battle axe formed by 3,000 leaves closed in with a bang. Once it swung down, Flame Fiend's progenitor did not bother dodging, but instead opened his mouth wide and coughed up a mouthful of blood again. That black blood burned in midair and turned into another human face. That person was also one of the 3 cultivators in Solar Kalpa Realm. At that moment, with a ferocious expression, he charged at the battle axe formed by the 3,000 leaves. With a loud bang, the human face shattered, but the battle axe also shattered with it. For a time, Flame Fiend's progenitor enjoyed unlimited splendor. His tactic was incredibly successful. He first pretended to have fallen for the tree's plan and devoured the 3 cultivators in Solar Kalpa Realm, but in truth, he did not fuse with them. Instead, he gathered the power in their bodies and turned it into his own power. Then, he burned the ground and the sky in one go. Su Ming remembered Flame Fiend's progenitor previously seizing the ground with his right hand, and perhaps this was the reason why he could burn the entire world so quickly. Clearly, Flame Fiend's progenitor had started making preparations right from the start, and even Su Ming had to be wary of him. He had not been able to see through the old man's actions. With the act of instantly burning the world, the Flame Fiend destroyed the tree's foundation in one go. Because of it, he seized the upper hand in the battle. Flame Fiend's progenitor had only spent a short amount of time thinking about it and had already brought it to action, causing all of this to happen. Based on this, it could be seen that those who had become almighties were so calculative and intelligent, so quick with their schemes, that it was not something an ordinary person could think match. If things continued progressing in this manner, then there was an incredibly high chance that Flame Fiend's progenitor would obtain the treasure in this place and even devour Long Hai. If that was the case, Su Ming would not choose to walk out. He would choose to wait. If no opportunity presented itself for him to attack, then he would have no problems with giving up on the treasure. As the 3,000 leaves shattered, Flame Fiend's progenitor laughed ferociously and charged towards the tree. He was so quick that he was just about to close in when his pupils suddenly shrank, because he saw no panic or anger in the eyes on the tree's trunk. Instead, there was scorn. It was the contempt of those who regarded others as below them, a derision mocking Flame Fiend's progenitor for overestimating himself. It was the omen that caused the old man's expression to change and his heart to let out a loud thump. You aren't the first person to do this. In the past, the cultivator named Long Hai also wanted to use this method to kill me. He nearly succeeded, but after him, no one can succeed. A buzzing sound reverberated in the air from within the tree. All lives possess fate. This fate is most intriguing and cannot be touched by all except those who have mastered fate. A voice filled with an ancient air came from the tree. At the instant its words echoed in the air, a strange power seemed to have entered the world. That power and the words immediately caused Flame Fiend's progenitor's eyes to go wide. An expression of disbelief appeared on his face, and a wave of terror that he could not hide revealed itself on his face. Fate Realm. You're in Fate Realm. Could this not be a dimension with a complementary treasure but a dimension with a supreme treasure? The expression of Flame Fiend's progenitor changed drastically. Based on his understanding, even the strongest ferocious spirits in the dimensions with complementary treasures were only in Mastery Realm. Only the ferocious spirits in the dimensions with supreme treasures might be powerful beings in Fate Realm. But everything before his eyes at that moment was something that could not have been known beforehand. Just the difference of one single realm could make all his previous actions turn into a joke. Su Ming's heart also shuddered, but his eyes shone swiftly. The Almighty in Fate Realm he understood the most was Heaven Traverser's progenitor. That person relied on a treasure to move himself to half a step away from Fate Realm. As a barely noticeable glint shone in Su Ming's eyes, he cast a glance at the three-leafed grass floating above the tree, and a strong hint of desire appeared on his face. Unless the tree itself reached Fate Realm, then it must be this treasure's effect. As for the tree's real level of cultivation, well, it'll all depend on whether I can cut it with the execution of 3 evils. If I can cut it, then it means that the treasure serves a critical role. Su Ming narrowed his eyes. His gaze landed on the currently rapidly fleeing Flame Fiend's progenitor, waiting for a chance that would benefit him the most if he attacked. Flame Fiend's progenitor retreated swiftly. He knew that he had no chance of striking back with his power when he compared himself to the Almighties in Fate Realm. With his heart in shock, he noticed the strange power contained in the world. This power surrounded him and had already interfered with his perception. From what he knew, this power could only come from one source. Fate. The earth possesses fate, as do the heavens. When the ancient voice spoke again, the ground that had vanished due to being burned returned. It buried the roots of the tree, and a green tint reappeared in the formerly empty sky. Everything returned to how it had been before. Thy fate shalt end. At the instant the face on the tree's trunk said those words in a cold voice, Flame Fiend's progenitor let out a shrill scream of pain. A large amount of fire suddenly erupted from his entire body. While purple flames surged and tumbled about in the area, the voice from the tree echoed once more. Fire is thine fate. This fate shalt be thenceforth devoured. Once these words were spoken, the sea of fire immediately stopped spreading outwards. Instead, it tumbled backwards to burn the body of Flame Fiend's progenitor. An incredible expression of terror appeared on the progenitor's face. As he swiftly retreated, he formed a seal with his hands and struck a few parts of his body. With each strike, he would cough up a mouthful of black blood and become faster. Thou shalt be mine second child. So shalt be thine fate. When the voice from the tree reverberated in the air, Flame Fiend's progenitor let out a shrill scream of pain. His whole body shuddered. A power that he found difficult to resist surged at him from all directions in an invisible form. It crushed his body, causing him to be unable to move forward. Instead, his body was pulled backwards against his will. He moved closer to the tree, and a blood-red branch crawled out of the trunk. It closed in on the old Flame Fiend as if it wanted to crawl into his body and turn him into a puppet like Long Hai. The latter stood by the side with an apathetic expression. He had only released that green dragon and not done anything else. Clearly, the will of the tree believed that it needed to take action personally to deal with this Flame Fiend. Su Ming was still waiting. He did not believe that Flame Fiend's progenitor only had these methods at his disposal. If this was true, then even if Su Ming did not attack, he would definitely die. But if Flame Fiend's progenitor still had other methods at his disposal, then Su Ming would prepare to deal the finishing blow to him. After all, this person had already showed the intention to kill him due to the yellow-browed man's words. Su Ming could sense the killing intent, and he naturally did not feel any pity for the progenitor. When the time came, Su Ming was quite confident about himself being able to escape. This confidence came from the 1,000 feet tall tree executing its power of controlling fate to create soil and bury its roots instead of killing the Flame Fiend. This matter might seem small, but if the tree could control its own fate, then it would naturally not need its foundation. Just like Yikang, due to its existence as a superior life form, it could move about the galaxy without any need for soil to provide nourishment to it. When Flame Fiend's progenitor was oppressed by the invisible power around him, his body continuously approaching the tree, he saw the red branch close the distance to less than 1,000 feet away from him. A resolute look then appeared on his face. He gritted his teeth and lifted his right hand to strike the center of his brows again. This time, he did not cough up black blood, but a loud bang shot up from his body, and during that instant, he swelled up rapidly. This was not him self-destructing. Instead, once his body swelled up, countless runic symbols appeared on his skin. These runic symbols were like tadpoles. Once they appeared, they started swimming about his body as if they were alive. A powerful presence immediately erupted from the progenitor's body. At the same time, beyond the fifth kill and in the planet where Flame Fiends lived were an innumerable number of Flame Fiends shuddering. They coughed up blood as their bodies withered, and some of them immediately fell to the ground burning to ashes before leaving a puddle of blood. In a short while, most of the Flame Fiends died. This was Flame Fiend's progenitor activating the divine ability of his race. He had discreetly absorbed his people's lives in exchange for a moment when he could be at his strongest. Boom! 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 Intense bangs shook the world. Even if there was someone several dimensions away from the place, they would still have been able to hear it. At that moment, black blood gushed out of the progenitor's body before everyone's eyes. That blood spread out ceaselessly and turned into a layer of black blood fog. It contained a powerful corrosive power that even corroded space. All forms of power, including the existence of fate, were halted in that blood fog before they were forcefully cut off. The 1,000 feet tall tree let out an enraged roar. The face on the trunk showed a refusal to accept what was going on, but the tree itself could not move. As the blood fog tumbled about, it blocked off its power of fate and even caused its connection with the puppet Long Hai to be cut off for a moment. The tree could only watch helplessly as the Flame Fiend escaped. Once Flame Fiend's progenitor swelled up several hundreds of times his original size, he managed to free himself of the binds created by the power of fate around him. With a shrill scream and a heinous amount of resentment, he rushed forward. His power was falling swiftly. This was the result of him having executed the previous divine ability. However, if he could escape from this place and find a spot where he could isolate himself to heal for a few days, he could recover. However, right at the instant he escaped, killing intent appeared in Su Ming's eyes. Now! Chapter 988. A puny Shu killing intent shone in Su Ming's eyes, and with one swift move, he came out of hiding. His appearance did not cause the 1,000 feet tall tree any surprise. Clearly, it had noticed his presence before. After all, when Su Ming entered the dimension earlier, he had not hidden himself. However, Flame Fiend's progenitor did not expect that Su Ming was hiding in this place. This was what it meant to get out of a frying pan and into the fire. Flame Fiend's progenitor might have escaped, but his power was swiftly falling. At the instant he sensed the killing intent behind him, he saw Su Ming swiftly rushing towards him. In just a flash, Su Ming caught up. This was not his own speed, but the resentful Wei executing its extreme speed. At the instant they closed in, Su Ming lifted his right hand. The power of Yikang within him gathered, and he also took away Xianxia, Yunyu, Nian Yin, and Hua Yu's power, who could do nothing about it. All these forces of power gathered on his palm, and he pushed it in the direction of Flame Fiend's progenitor through the air. The world roared. Su Ming's strike turned into a whirlwind that charged towards the progenitor with a loud bang, and madness appeared in the old man's eyes. As he shouted, a fierce note manifested in his voice. When he saw that he was about to be swallowed up by the whirlwind, a look as if he was about to risk everything showed up on his face. He pressed his hands on his chest and tore it outwards. With it, he tore his body into half. Half of him continued running, and the other rushed to Su Ming, then chose to self-destruct. Flame Fiend's progenitor was an almighty in Mastery realm, yet he was forced to an extent that he had to self-destruct. If this news went out, Su Ming's name would ring through the universe. In truth, this was not all of his own doing. The main reason behind it was the existence of the 1,000 feet tall tree. It had heavily injured the Flame Fiend beforehand, and with Su Ming's body formed by the Supreme Treasure as well as the resentful Wei, he was able to do this. However, if he had hidden for so long only to destroy half of Flame Fiend's progenitor's body, then he Su Ming would end up with a huge threat to his future. There was no way he would be willing to accept this. Since he had already attacked, he would do his best to kill the other. The self-destruction of half of the progenitor's body caused a loud bang to surge into the sky. At the instant the destructive ripples spread out, a glint appeared in the resentful Wei's eyes. The two dragon heads roared and rushed towards the ripples brought by the progenitor's self-destruction. A black sea of fire formed by resentment swept out in all directions and instantly swallowed up the impact formed by the progenitor's self-destruction, making it so that it could not spread out. At the same time, Su Ming let out a long roar, and the full force of his power erupted from his body. He even called forth his Yikan clone, causing his combat power to reach its peak during that instant. With one step, he disappeared from the spot. During the instant the explosive power was halted, Su Ming's foot landed on air, and he left the area of the explosion to appear behind Flame Fiend's progenitor, who now only had half his body and was already far into the distance. He had already found the exit and was about to enter it. "Stay here." Killing intent shone in Su Ming's eyes. As he spoke, he lifted his right hand, then seized the air in the direction of Flame Fiend's progenitor, who was just about to leave. With it, the body of Flame Fiend's progenitor trembled. When he whipped his head around, strong resentment and wariness appeared in his eyes as he looked at Su Ming. He knew that if he did not discard his body, then it would be impossible for him to leave this place on this day. Compared to his life, everything else was nothing. Without any hesitation, Flame Fiend's progenitor threw his head back and roared. A red spot appeared at the center of his brows. It went backwards and shot through the progenitor's skull, then flew out of the back of his head. It showed up to be a red jade. That jade only appeared for a moment before it turned into a semi-transparent shadow. Naturally, that shadow was in the image of Flame Fiend's progenitor. This was clearly his nascent divinity. His nascent divinity had left his body. At that moment, the remaining half of his body exploded with a bang. This was Flame Fiend's progenitor sparing no pains in getting injured to block Su Ming with the power of the self-destruction, and at the same time having his nascent divinity borrow the impact from the explosion to be pushed into the exit. This act of discarding the body and the resolution within caused Su Ming's pupils to shrink. As a booming sound surged into the sky, his right hand crashed into the explosion brought by the remaining half of the progenitor's body. Su Ming staggered a few steps back. When he lifted his head, he saw the nascent divinity's almost crumbling form disappear in the distortions which formed the exit of the dimension. What welcomed him there was the loss of 1,000 years while he was moving through the dimensions. He, who only had his nascent divinity left, would definitely be injured badly when those 1,000 years flowed away. Since he no longer had a body and life force to be absorbed, then what would be absorbed would be the essence in his nascent divinity. If he was lucky enough to survive this encounter, he would no longer be Flame Fiend's progenitor of before, but would be incredibly weakened. The gaps between the dimensions were endless and insubstantial, and they might not even lead into the same region. Because of it, the thought of chasing after the progenitor only appeared briefly in Su Ming's mind before he gave up on it. He swung his arm to wave away the smoke, and only then did he see a red beast skin pouch where the remainder of the progenitor's body had self-destructed. He seized the air with his right hand, and the beast skin pouch immediately flew to him. Once Su Ming caught it, he turned his head around and looked at the tree and the resentful Wei. The explosion where the resentful Wei was had already ended. The horse moved and appeared beside Su Ming. It looked slightly tired, but it was not injured. At that moment, Su Ming stood beside the dimension's exit. It could be said that he had seized the initiative in his hand. Even if he wanted to leave, with just one step, he could do so. He stared at the 1,000 feet tall tree in the distance, and the tree was also staring at Su Ming through the gradually dissipating blood fog. By its side was progenitor Long Hai. At the instant Su Ming met the tree's stare and then averted his gaze to look at progenitor Long Hai, a faint voice suddenly reaching his heart. That voice drifted about, and there was anxiety as well as a strong wave of desire in it. Fellow Daoist, save me. I am Long Hai, and I come from true morning Tao world. My soul was seized by this devilish tree, and I lost myself. Now, with the blood fog flame fiend's progenitor brought forth, the connection between me and the tree has been cut off temporarily, and I was able to regain my mind. Save me. I, Long Hai, swear by my power as a master of fate, lives, and death that no matter whether you choose to save me or not, if I regain my freedom, then I will acknowledge you as my master. If I go against my oath, then my nascent divinity will scatter into the universe, and all generations of the Long family will die. As Long Hai said these words, a strange connection suddenly appeared in the depths of Su Ming's heart. This connection was faint and indistinct, and it drifted about just like the voice. An oath from a person in Mastery Realm. Shu Hui immediately said swiftly. Long Hai's voice, which had traveled into Su Ming's mind, had also been heard by Shu Hui, Xianxia, Yu Nu, Nian Yin, and Hua Yu. Shu Hui clearly became agitated. This oath cannot be made easily. Not only did he swear it, he even activated the indistinct fate lingering all around us. It has already been branded in the universe and has turned into a promise. Progenitor Long Hai, what resolute courage! As Shu Hui spoke, Su Ming narrowed his eyes into slits. A brilliant light shone within them. It was just as Shu Hui said, this progenitor Long Hai was indeed incredibly courageous. This was clearly a rare moment when he could be conscious, which was why he seized it, and without even waiting to see whether Su Ming would agree to his request, he handed Su Ming everything about himself and swore the oath. This was him using the fastest time and the shortest amount of words necessary to show his greatest sincerity. He was clearly worried that Su Ming would not believe in his words and he would miss this opportunity, which was why he decided to spare no pains and give up everything about himself. Because of it, he could instantly obtain Su Ming's trust, causing his request for help to turn into a temptation. This temptation was the thought of having a master of fate, lives, and death serving as a guard from then on. It also caused the matter of saving Long Hai to turn from being important to only Long Hai to become equally important to Su Ming. The change in his thoughts, the appearance of these words, and the swearing of this oath made it clear that progenitor Long Hai was indeed an almighty in Mastery Realm. If it had been anyone else, they might have spent a long amount of time in obtaining each other's trust, and since this had nothing to do with Su Ming, there was a high possibility that he would have just turned around and left. Even if he attacked, he would feel as if he was doing it for someone else, so once any danger appeared, he would immediately give up. But now, it was completely different. Su Ming pondered over it quietly for a moment before a cold sneer appeared on his lips. He swiftly appeared beside the 1,000 feet tall tree and took a step forward. Before he could close in, the 1,000 feet tall tree swayed, and the eyes on the trunk stared at Su Ming with a dark light. You didn't choose to leave? Then stay. Buzzing sounds reverberated in the air. The 1,000-foot tall tree started swaying intensely, and numerous leaves floated into the air. There were 3,000 of them, and they were gathering together to form a long sword. As they charged forward, they moved away from the disappearing blood fog and straight at Su Ming. These 3,000 leaves signify the 3,000 great Taos. Within them are 3,000 fates. This fate is too intriguing and mysterious for words, and this fate is how I, the ancestor of all trees, will bring about the rise and fall of fate. The buzzing from the 1,000 feet tall tree reverberated in the air, and the long sword formed by the 3,000 leaves immediately appeared in front of Su Ming as if it had sliced through space. A piercingly cold glare appeared in Su Ming's eyes. You are just an imposter who pretends to be in Fate Realm. How dare you say you're in the realm of the rise and fall of fate? Su Ming let out a cold snort. At the instant the long sword formed by leaves closed in on him, he lifted his right hand and slashed down with it. The execution of 3 evils. The entire world looked as if it had been cut by a sharp blade before Su Ming. The slash landed on the incoming sword made of leaves. With a bang, a loud bang surged into the sky, and the sword formed by leaves crumbled. The eyes on the tree focused, and at the same time, with a proud air as if he was looking down at the world, Su Ming's voice echoed in the world. "You puny shoot, how dare you call yourself ancestor before me?" As Su Ming's words echoed in the air, the full force of Yikang's presence erupted from the body of the supreme treasure Su Ming controlled, without a single hint of it being held back. The appearance of Yikang's presence swept up the sky, the air, and caused the world to look as if it had been overturned. His presence was filled with an untamed, arrogant, domineering air, along with a madness that said he looked down on all lives, as well as an indescribable malice. The tree's expression instantly changed drastically. Chapter 989. He isn't dead? At that moment, Xianxia, Yunyu, Nianyin, and Hua Yu, who were in the body of the supreme treasure Su Ming controlled, felt shock in their hearts. They could vaguely sense a presence that suffocated them rising from Su Ming. This presence caused them to feel that their hearts and minds had been greatly limited, as if 10,000 mountains had fallen on their heads, as if it had become difficult for even form any thoughts in their heads. This was not the first time they sensed this. In truth, when the Sea of Fire had erupted beyond the fifth kill and Su Ming was in the process of taming the resentful Wei in the vortex in the world, they had sensed the same thing. However, the feeling at that time was much more inferior to the one they felt now. At this moment, the madness, dominance, wildness, and the endless malice spreading out from Su Ming's body caused Xianxia, Yunyu, Nianyin, and Hua Yu's minds to tremble. Their souls were greatly suppressed. In fact, they had a feeling in them that refused to disappear. If Su Ming wanted to destroy them, they would have no way of fighting back at all. They would be instantly devoured. This was a form of powerlessness akin to them running into their mortal enemy, as if they had become ants before Su Ming, and he was a universe that devoured ants to live. The feeling Xu Hui had was slightly weaker than what Xianxia, Yunyu, Nianyin, and Hua Yu felt, but she was similarly shocked, but terror did not appear in her heart. Instead, there was only great wave of submission within her. Submitting to a powerful warrior to the point that not a single desire to fight back could rise in her. This was the state of Xu Hui's heart at that moment. However, only they, who were in the body of the supreme treasure Su Ming controlled, could sense it. If there was anyone else in the dimension at that moment, they would see that Su Ming's hair was dancing while he stood in space, the presence and mighty pressure spreading out from his body forming endless distortions around him. Those distortions spread through the sky and earth, filling the entire dimension. When all of this landed in the tree's eyes, it saw a whole different thing. It experienced shock and disbelief that it had never felt before. In its eyes, in the endless distortions surrounding Su Ming was a gigantic shadow. This shadow was like a tree that brought with it pride, arrogance, and a madness as if it was proclaiming that it was above all in the universe. As for the malice that filled the dimension, in the tree's eyes, it was endless branches that had no end. And during that moment, it was shocked to see the entire world replaced by that vast tree. All of this caused the tree's body to shudder, all 1,000 feet of it. It swayed about violently. A monstrously huge wave rose in its heart, as if a storm raged there. It caused its mind to almost break down from disbelief. It had always believed that it was the ancestor of all trees in the universe. This was something it believed without a doubt, but in the depths of its heart, it knew that if there was a tree that could surpass it in the universe, it was an existence that it longed to become, and it was the legendary, true ancestor of all trees, and also the only existence that could call it a shoot. Yikang. The shocked voice from the 1,000 feet tall tree instantly reverberated in all directions. Its body swayed, and the leaves on its crown drifted down as it watched the scene before itself in shock. You're just a tiny little shoot, how dare you call yourself the ancestor of trees before me? Killing intent shone in Su Ming's eyes. He took a step forward, and with it, the world roared, and his presence pressed down on the tree with viciousness. It was just a simple step, but to the 1,000 feet tall tree, this was a vast tree that occupied the entire universe roaring at it. That roar brought forth a suppression to its soul, along with terror. How dare you act presumptuously? Su Ming took another step forward. When he raised his right hand, he slashed at the tree, and with it, the power of the execution of 3 evils filled the air. When he cut down at the tree, the ground beneath the tree crumbled and was disassembled while shuddering, turning into nothingness. This tree was formed by the tree's laws of fate, and if one slash from Su Ming's execution of 3 evils could cut the fate of Heaven Travis's progenitor, there was no way the ground formed by the laws of fate by the small shoot would not crumble. His strike was the arch nemesis for all forms of fate that did not originate from a person. How dare you not worship me? Su Ming took his 3rd step forward. When he did so, he executed the 3rd slash of the execution of 3 evils, and the area around the 1,000 feet tall chute instantly turned into nothing. This was Su Ming cutting away all the laws of fate on the ground, causing it to be segregated from the dimension around it so that it could no longer use its ability that belonged to the fate realm. With a bang, the 1,000 feet tall tree shuddered, and almost all of its leaves fell. It also looked as if its whole body was about to explode. This was because it had its fate cut off, when Su Ming forcefully suppressed it. This was not a suppression on its power. This was a suppression on its soul and its presence, based on a suppression from similar life forms trees. If it was any other cultivator, then only if their power was greater than this tree would they be able to use this method to suppress the tree. If they did not have a greater level of cultivation than the tree, they would definitely be unable to suppress it till it was trembling, even if they were at the same level of cultivation. However, Su Ming was different. He was not suppressing the tree's power, but was using his Yikang clone's presence, life form status, and might as the ancestor of all trees, which would make all trees in the universe shudder and obey him. Compared to Su Ming's Yikang clone, the 100,000 feet tall tree was just a small shoot. As it trembled, Su Ming closed in on it with 3 steps, and the 100,000 feet tall tree gave up on all forms of resistance. It had to give up. All the laws of fate had already been cut off. The suppression on its soul caused it to be unable to struggle and fight back, and the respect it harbored in its heart towards a legendary existence like Yikang caused its mind to almost break down. It did not expect that it would run into the true ancestor of trees as well as the existence it longed the most to become Yikang. It was like a cat had thought itself to have become a tiger, but when it ran into a real tiger, it would lose all of its will to fight back due to the great shock. I, Treant Tar Luo, greet. Progenitor Yikang. All the leaves from the 1,000 feet tall tree fell off. Only the 3-leafed grass remained on the tree's crown. At the same time it shone with a green light, the branches from the 1,000 feet tree twisted about and slanted downwards. A red branch also swiftly crawled out from the trunk. This branch stretched out, and a red leaf quickly grew on it. This could be said to be the highest form of worship for a treant. The fall of leaves symbolized the tree prostrating itself and showing complete submission. The trunk bending over symbolized an unparalleled respect, and that red branch that stretched out was the manifestation of the tree's soul. As for the red tree leaf that grew out of the branch, that was the true form of the tree's soul. It brought its soul out, and it even lifted up the red leaf before Su Ming. From the distance, if anyone likened this tree to a person, then it would like a man kneeling down in front of Su Ming respectfully, his right hand lifted while he lowered his head. His palm was facing upwards, as if this was a strange ceremony and he was waiting for something. Su Ming's expression was calm. He could sense the tree's submission. This was the embodiment of being suppressed by Yikang. When he walked closer, the will from his Yikang clone and the ancient memories existing in Yikang's soul caused him to instantly understand what the 1,000 feet tall tree was waiting for with this ceremony. He lifted his right hand and placed it gently on the red leaf. At the instant he touched it, Su Ming sensed the tree's soul, and the tree's soul also sensed the pure Yikang presence from Su Ming. It also sensed a ripple of power hidden under the presence that caused its expression to change drastically. It was this ripple that made the 1,000 feet tree shudder again. It straightened its trunk swiftly, and when it looked at Su Ming, there was a great wave of terror and a shock that surpassed what it had previously revealed in its eyes. You! While the 1,000 feet tall tree shuddered, its trunk quickly twisted and started changing ceaselessly in front of Su Ming. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a man and bowed deeply at Su Ming. He raised his hands and brought up the 3-leafed grass to respectfully hand it over to him. I, Treant Tar Luo, have been protecting this treasure for ages, and I have been waiting for your arrival. You have finally come. I will obey the will of the fifth kill's previous master, and whatever your will shall be, it will be the driving force for our lives." A glint shone in Su Ming's eyes, and he stared at the man formed by the chute in front of him coldly. "What have you noticed?" Su Ming asked faintly. "You are progenitor Yikang, but you are also not progenitor Yikang. You are the master of the fifth kill." Terror appeared on the man's face, but there was also zealousness. His gaze made it seem as if with just one sentence from Su Ming, he could be driven into a frenzy. The words he said caused the brilliant light in Su Ming's eyes to become even brighter. Even though he was already prepared for it, he still lifted his head and looked up. Echoing in his mind were the words from Dust Burner's progenitor. Su Xianxia was the previous master of the fifth kill, and only his cursed son would have the right to become the new master of the fifth kill. Su Ming stared at the air in silence for a long, long time, then sighed in his heart, but soon, once he sighed, his eyes focused. Once he pondered over the man's words carefully, a fierce look appeared in his eyes. "Did you just say that you have been waiting for me, and I have finally come?" "It is not just me. All the living creatures in the fifth kill have been waiting for you, for the sign of the previous master to become the new master of the fifth kill." The man lifted his head and looked at Su Ming with fervent zeal. "Who told you that I would come?" Su Ming asked calmly, but in that calm voice was a thought that had never appeared before in his head. This thought caused his breathing to quicken, and he seemed to have understood everything within an instant. When our old master came to the kill the final time, fatigued, he delivered his will to all the existences in the kill and told us to continue waiting. His child will come to the fifth kill many years later. A loud bang rang out in Su Ming's head. His body trembled faintly, and his eyes sparkled. "He isn't dead." That thought that caused his breathing to quicken formed into 3 words when the bang rumbled in his head, and those words echoed ceaselessly in his mind. Chapter 990. Su Ming's nervousness. Su Ming remained silent for a time, then looked at the man in front of him and lifted his right hand to take the 3-leaved grass that was shining with a thick green hue. He did not even have the urge to check the treasure, and with an apathetic expression put it away. "Release Long Hai soul," Su Ming said faintly. Without any hesitation, the man that was the 1,000 feet tall tree closed his eyes and then reopened them. Immediately, a crack appeared at the center of his brows. Everything within it was dark, before a ball of dark light flew out. That was a nascent divinity. Once it left the crack between the center of the man's brows, it immediately turned into an old man. The old man's face was filled with excitement. His nascent divinity shuddered, and his thoughts surged up in his head like waves. For a moment, all the things it went through for the past 10,000 years flashed through his mind. He once thought that he would live the rest of his life as a puppet. In fact, while he lived without any freedom, he was not even be able to control his own death. He could only wait for a long, long period of time. This pain was enough to make a person break down, and his experience was not like those shared by the people who were in Yikang's foreign land. After all, they had their memories accompanying them and had hope placed before them. However, the old man had nothing. If he was not an almighty who was a master of fate, lives, and death and had a willpower that normal people would not possess, then during those 10,000 years, he would have lost himself a long time ago. Fulfill the promise you have not completed fully. Su Ming's voice interrupted the thoughts in the old man's heart. His nascent divinity floated in front of Su Ming, and when he heard it, he looked over, then after remaining silent for about the span of 2 breaths, he wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed deeply to Su Ming. "I, Long Hai, am willing to protect you for 10,000 years to repay you for saving my life. My words are my oath, and now that I have said it, I will definitely fulfill my words." As he bowed, the indistinct connection instantly became clear and fused into his heart. This connection might not allow Su Ming to control progenitor Long Hai, but it was an oath. If progenitor Long Hai did not fulfill it, he would be suppressed by the entire universe. After all, this oath was sworn with his cultivation base. In truth, the main point behind why Su Ming chose to save progenitor Long Hai was because he came from true morning Dao world. After all, Su Ming had possessed Dao Kong and also indirectly received the Kismet from true morning Dao world gathered on Dao Kong. Since he had also ruined the Kismet gathered on Yi Wang, he became the one and only person to have this kismet on him. Because of it, while changes might occur in the oaths from the cultivators who hailed from other true worlds, but if those from true Morning Dao world swore to the person who was loved by the entire true world, then the oath would naturally not be so easily changed. Su Ming cast Long Hai a glance, then swung his arm. Immediately, progenitor Long Hai's nascent divinity charged over. Long Hai did not resist, but instead let himself be brought forward. At the instant he touched Su Ming's body, he fused into him, stepped into the supreme treasure, and turned into the seventh soul within it. Xian family's supreme treasure. As progenitor Long Hai's eyes began to shine, he immediately noticed the other souls around him. You know this item. Su Ming sent his thought to him. I went to the Xian family in the past and am on rather familiar terms with their progenitor, which is why I know about this treasure. As progenitor Long Hai spoke, Su Ming controlled the body to cast his eyes at the man that was the 100,000 feet tall tree in front of him. The man remained kneeling in the air respectfully. The zealousness on his expression was as great as ever. Su Ming remained silent for some time before asking calmly, "Can you leave this dimension?" "I can't leave. Unless you step into the core of the fifth kill and truly become the fifth kill's master, and also repair the fifth kill. Only then will we be able to venture out," the man immediately replied. Su Ming fell silent again for a moment before he nodded towards the man. Under his respectful gaze, Su Ming turned around and walked into the distance. With one step, he arrived near the exit of the dimension, but then, his footsteps came to a halt. However, he did not turn his head around. After a slight pause, he took a step into the exit and walked into the crack in the dimension before he disappeared from the place. This time, Su Ming did not pay any attention to the loss of 1,000 years. Once he stepped into the crack, he closed his eyes. When he did so, the voice from Dustburner's progenitor echoed in his head again. The baby in his wife's stomach was cursed. Su Xianyi used all his divine abilities, but he could only make it so that the curse would not worsen. He could not dispel it. Until one day, he took his wife and left the place. We don't know where he went. The fifth kill has two masters. Su Xianyi is the second one, but in truth, there is a third master. That is his son, but that person has still not arrived. Su Ming moved about in the dimension's crack. His expression remained the same as ever, but his shut eyes hid the complicated emotions in his heart which were born from his thoughts. They also hid the words the man that was the 1,000 feet tall tree had said just then. When our old master came to the kill the final time, fatigued, he delivered his will to all the existences in the kill and told us to continue waiting. His child will come to the fifth kill many years later. With a complicated expression on his face, Su Ming opened his eyes and looked at the time flowing away. He did not bother about the loss of years. Understanding appeared in his eyes, but the complicated emotions that accompanied this understanding were filled with grief that no one could understand. He seemed to be able to vaguely envision Su Xianyi taking his wife and borrowing the fifth kill's power in dismay, then leaving the fifth true world when it was destroyed by the four great true worlds working together. In Divine Essence Star Ocean, he saw the baby in his wife's body continuously tortured by the curse and watched his wife gradually becoming thinner and weaker, and his heart was filled with grief, but he could do nothing about it. He had used every method that he could and every divine ability he possessed, but he still could not neutralize the curse from which his child suffered. Many years later, he took his wife and left. He should have found a method that could make the curse on the baby disappear, and with excitement as well as hope, he walked out of Divine Essence Star Ocean. However, complications happened during the process. When they were passing by True Morning Dao World, a great change occurred. Dao Chen's greed and the chase by the entire Morning Dao sect caused him, who had continuously given up his cultivation base and other sort of things over the years for his wife and his son, to be incredibly tired, and to protect his wife and son, he could not bring out his true power. During that battle, his wife died. In extreme grief, he went mad and let out a long string of shrill laughter towards the heavens. In that laughter were tears, along with a madness that longed to destroy the world and shatter the universe. Once he declared that Morning Dao World would be made for abyss, he disappeared. Perhaps, at that time, he had also given up on the method that he originally wanted to use to get rid of the curse in the baby's body. Instead, he chose another path. He should have succeeded in his path, or else why would he have returned to the fifth kill with fatigue in his bones, then said such words to the living beings there? His sentence clearly showed that he had been separated from his son, but he was certain that he would someday come back to the fifth kill and find traces of his whereabouts in this place. The grief on Su Ming's face was mixed with complicated emotions as well as confusion. He was unfamiliar with the term father. When he was young, he saw that all his companions had fathers when he was in the tribe, but he did not. He had been sad before and once asked his elder about it, but he never obtained his answer. He had always thought that he was a child that was picked up somewhere. This might have been a thought within him when he was a child, but it had accompanied him for thousands of years. When he thought back to it, he could still sense the envy and anguish in his heart at that time. He was envious that other people had mothers and fathers, but he did not. When he fought against Dao Chen in the past, his wife died, and he went mad, but he insisted on returning to the fifth kill. Did he just come back to say these words? Or did he choose to come here to heal? Su Ming looked at the crack around him, then at the years of his life disappearing from him, and he fell silent. If he is healing here, then could it be that he is currently in the fifth kill? A strange light rose in Su Ming's eyes. This thought caused him to be unable to control his own emotions. Or perhaps... Su Ming shuddered. He had another guess. This guess was based on the vitality and life force that was absorbed by the cracks in the dimensions. When he returned in the past, he was not alone. Instead, he held onto a corpse, a woman's corpse, which was his wife. He returned to the fifth kill and placed his wife at the core, then changed the structure inside the fifth kill. He had dust burners execute a plan that would last for ages, causing the fifth kill to be activated often, and he used the supreme treasures in this land to attract numerous powerful warriors. He made them fight over the supreme treasures and move through the dimensions while they offered up a large amount of their life, and he used it to revive his wife. Su Ming trembled. This thought continuously spun in his head until it became everything in his mind. Which of these guesses is real? Su Ming closed his eyes. After a long time, when he walked out of the crack and stepped into another dimension, he opened his eyes. The complicated emotions remained on his face, but the lost look in his eyes was now mixed, with a nervousness that came from his heart. This nervousness was not due to excitement or fear, but because he had remembered the woman who held him in her arms when he was still an infant. She had appeared in the illusion dug out from the depths of his memories when he was in Western Ring Nebula's foreign land. That unfamiliar but warm feeling, as well as the insistence of protecting the child even in death, was branded into Su Ming's life and became a mark that would not fade away. That unfamiliarity and warmth turned into a faint murmur by Su Ming's ears at that moment. Su. Su Ming shuddered and lifted his head. He did not look at the world in the dimension, but at the universe. Is it you? He mumbled.